there. Welcome back to Mystery for Two podcast. I'm Katy.
And I'm Jack.
And this is episode 2. And it's funny because, actually not funny at all because I've totally planned it this way, but this is a double-decker story today. So I have 2 stories woven into one.
Double-decker?
A double-decker, like a double-decker bus. That's
Double-decker bus. There's also a chocolate bar called the Double-decker.
Okay.
If you're familiar.
I'm not familiar.
It's very English, but there is such thing. It's delicious.
But yeah, so we're doing 2 for the price of 1. Not that this podcast even costs anything for you guys out there listening or watching on YouTube. So before we get into that, and I promise you guys, these stories today are so interesting. We'll get into that. But before we do, a little bit of housekeeping things. I know we're only in episode 2 and you guys are like, Katy, are you putting me to work? No, there's some things we need to cover, some things that we didn't talk about in episode 1 because we were so excited to get it out the door, honestly.
Excitement, nerves, panic. I felt a few things.
I mean, we're really excited to be here. Don't get me wrong. I mean, some of the stories are going to be kind of dark and, not exciting stories, so to speak, but we are excited to be here together doing something like this, telling stories and, peeling back the layers of history. It's very, very cool. But that being said, there are a few things about the podcast that we haven't even talked about because we were just so amped to get last week out the door. So just a few little notes because this podcast is purely a production of the 2 of us. There's no one behind the camera. It's just us.
2-man band.
2-man band over here. So I just wanted to tell you guys all these fun things that we came up with for the podcast. So the title being the first thing, Mystery for 2. We didn't even say this last episode, but that is purely a what's it called? A play on words. That's it. Play on words with table for 2. And that's often what we ask for when we go to a restaurant because, alas, there are 2 of us. So we say, table for 2, please. And I thought, okay, great. Mystery for 2, table for 2. It kind of goes hand in hand. Naming a podcast is so hard, guys. And I wanted mystery somewhere in the title. And luckily, Jack was completely on board with my creative craziness. And here we are, Mystery for 2. Basic, but it works. Secondly, the music. So the music that you hear before we start each episode was actually Jack's choice.
The music, I'd call it a jingle.
A jingle.
A jingle of sorts.
So I chose the title and Jack chose the jingle.
I won't take all the credit. Katy did pick out an array of options, and then I was given freedom to choose out of those options. So it was a team effort.
Yeah.
Collaboration.
More or less, you did decide.
I'm convinced if I'd have picked your least favourite one out of the 6 that you would have probably steered us in another direction, because you definitely had them ranked before. You never told me, but for sure you did.
I gave him 6 options, and you did choose my least favorite. But here we are.
Really?
Yeah. Well, okay, I chose 6 ones that I more or less liked, but there were some that I really loved that you just didn't vibe with, which is fine because, this is a mystery for 2. This is a project for 2. So ultimately we went with the jingle that that Jack
So
loved.
if people hate the jingle, it's on me, and I've blamed the whole project.
Honestly,
good to know.
Honestly, it's great. It's great. It's kind of quirkier than I thought we were going to go with, but you know what? We can be quirky. So that is kind of what went into the creative of the podcast. And then the last thing I wanted to say is that every week I'll be sharing mysteries. Some of the mysteries are solved and some of them are not solved. And you'll find out, of course, by the end of each episode what ended up happening, but it isn't always something where it's like we don't know what happened. Sometimes it's tied up in a nice, neat bow, even though it might be a sad, neat bow, like something tragic happened, but a bow nonetheless. So that is that. And I thought that I'd just share that, not, to be boring or anything, but I feel like it's cool to see, a window into...
And I think that's part of the fun, that it's not always known if it's going to be a solved or unsolved or open, closed case.
Right.
It's part of the fun.
Exactly. It's going to be fun. And I promise, guys, once we keep rolling through with this and do more episodes, we will loosen up. Right now, we're on our best behavior.
Hey, don't. Be careful what you wish for.
Maybe we should,
there might end up being a lot of, what is it, bleepers or whenever...
Bloopers.
No. I know what a blooper is, when you have to bleep out...
Censor.
Yeah.
Censor.
I might be censored.
Censored beeps. Yeah, no, we really should be drinking during these episodes. Maybe episode 3, we'll crack open a bottle of wine.
Whiskey for 2.
I don't know if whiskey... Jack has a bad history with whiskey.
I do. That could be a whole podcast
I
episode.
don't know if that's what
One
we're going to do for
last
episode
housekeeping, or another.
Oh, you have a housekeeping.
Another additional, I thought was very cool of the building of the podcast was the cover art.
Yes. So the cover art, that is actually something I didn't even think to talk about. Thank you, Jack. So the cover art, I don't know if he wants us to say his name just yet, because he is a very legit graphic designer that like works on some of your favorite stuff you've seen on a variety of different, I don't want to get in trouble. He like sent me some stuff and was like, you cannot share this. So he's like a very legit guy. Okay. He's over across the pond in England, and he is an extremely talented graphic designer. The goal, I should say, was we really wanted something that was kind of film noir vibes, like old school.
I learned what film noir was about 3 weeks ago when we were fleshing out this idea. So I've learned a lot already.
I was like, Jack, come on, like the old school.
I knew what you meant. I'd seen it before. I just didn't know that's what it was called. And then it made sense to me.
Yeah, so that's kind of the direction we went in. And he was purely the mastermind behind it. I mean, I was like, I'd like for certain elements to be there. I'd like for some like scattered diamonds and some like a magnifying glass and like a few things. And then he had us sit in this like specific formation. We took some photos on my iPhone, and it turned out amazing. And the goal is we're going to blow it up and put it on the wall. Not in here, because that'd be like too redundant, but like probably in the living room or something.
It's just fascinating seeing like a sketch or an idea you have in your head, then go onto a computer screen or a piece of paper, and then like you see the real thing.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
No, extremely cool. And we are so happy with how it turned out.
That's my house rules.
That's house rules.
House rule. Whatever,
that's not a rule.
Whatever we were calling them, or the boring
housekeeping.
Housekeeping.
Housekeeping. We're keeping the house. We're keeping the house informed. We're keeping the listeners informed with like what went into this podcast, because as we get moving and grooving and pumping out these episodes, we're going to forget to pause and be like, oh, hey, like this is why this is called this. This is why this is this way. And we're just really happy to be here and happy you're giving us a chance. So that being said, I think we get into the double decker. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Are you ready for the double decker? So I'm telling you guys today 2 different stories, but they are linked in some way. But it'll be up to you to figure out why they're linked. And you won't really know until we get to story 2. It's going to be fairly obvious, but you won't really know until then, which I think is kind of a mystery within itself. So to kick things off, we are in Cleveland, Ohio, and it's the 1980s. But in order to understand what Cleveland was like in the 80s, we need to remember what it was like in the 70s. Let's just say the late 60s and 70s wasn't an amazing time to be in Cleveland. They had lots of problems with pollution. They had one of their major rivers catch on fire, actually, because of how much oil was in it. It apparently bubbled like a deadly stew, Cleveland residents said.
LeBron hadn't showed up yet. My Cleveland...
I know who LeBron is. I don't know that he's a Cleveland
there we go.
Player.
I'm just, blending some sports knowledge into this podcast.
Sometimes rats would float in the river. Their corpses so bloated that they were pretty much the size of dogs. So imagine you're having a cute picnic by the river and you see a bloated rat.
It's a floating rat.
A bloated, floating rat just go by you.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty bleak.
Yeah. Luckily, by the 80s, things were looking fresh and good for Cleveland, Ohio. They were really turning the corner. They were very sick as a collective group of being the punchline of every joke in America. So city leaders were planning an event that would really put their beloved city back on the map in a great way. They wanted to be known for something cool, not bloated rats floating in the river. They really wanted to rewrite their story. Enter a local charitable organization called United Way of Cleveland. And their bread and butter was raising money for homeless shelters, childcare, support for people with disabilities, food assistance programs, etc. So they were, by all accounts, an organization that wanted to do good in the community. And their marketing director, Dr. George Frazier, had just seen a balloon launch at Disneyland in California the year before. 1.2 million balloons were released to celebrate the park's 30th anniversary. And Dr. Frazier said, well, why don't we do something like that in Cleveland? Also,
but what were they celebrating? in Cleveland.
They just wanted to make a big splash.
Just balloons.
Just balloons.
Balloons were the answer.
They were like, if we just put like a gazillion balloons into the sky, like...
I mean, people would think something's going down.
Like, who cares about the environment? Let's just... Like, that's a big splash if you think about it.
They
like,
should have strapped the rats to the balloons and to take them away.
I don't know if gravity works that way. Anyway, so... Sorry, I'm picturing that. The giggles. Okay. Anyway, so Dr. George Fraser had this idea of essentially doing what Disneyland did, but better. And so the Cleveland city leaders heard this plan and were like, perfect. That sounds amazing. We'll work with a charity. So that's good. We'll do something really punchy and bold. They thought that it was an amazing idea. The United Way charity was involved in planning, and their hope was to raise money and garner some publicity for the work that they were doing. But they were going to do it better than Disneyland. They wanted to set a world record for the largest simultaneous balloon release.
And hold up, you mentioned Disney was 1.2 million?
Disneyland, yeah, 1.2 million balloons.
So Cleveland were aiming to let go more than 1 million balloons.
More than 1.2, yeah. Their plan was to fill 2 million helium balloons. So several things are happening here. They want to work with a charity. They want to do something like colorful and huge and exciting. And they want to beat Disneyland and break a world record. So there's a lot of things hanging in the balance here.
To put Cleveland back on the map.
Yeah. And they were really excited about it. The plan was to fill about 2 million helium balloons with air, gather them under an enormous net about the size of a full city block, and then release them all at once into the sky right in downtown Cleveland's public square. Of course. And it ended up, when all was said and done, it ended up being closer to 1.5 million balloons in the end, but still a crap ton of balloons and more than Disneyland. Because obviously they have to beat Disneyland.
I'm thinking like a city might put like a music festival on or something of that nature.
Right.
Or like a fair or a circus, something. Just 2 million balloons.
2 million balloons, why not? Why not? I mean, aesthetically it does sound kind of beautiful in a way, like a colorful cloud of balloons rising over Lake Erie, benefiting a charity, really a symbol of Cleveland pride, But as you can probably gather by the fact that I'm even sharing this story, it did not go as planned. In the early morning hours of September 27th, 1986, more than 2,500 volunteers, many of them being school-aged children, gathered in tents to help blow up all of the balloons. So they literally were like child labor. Perfect. That was my first thought. Child labor. Like, that's not cool. But they were excited about it. They were excited to be, it was a charity event, and it was also the 80s. People were laughing, music was playing, and as the sun came up, that massive net filled with balloons looked like a rainbow-colored dome, ready to go. It looked beautiful. The city had made it into a festival called Balloonfest with entertainers and even Uncle Sam walking around on stilts. But by mid-afternoon, this is when things go south, the forecast showed storm clouds rolling in. The event planners started to freak out. Like, imagine.
Goodness.
Imagine, like, how much time and money and how embarrassing that must have been for, like, the weather.
But also, if you have 2 million of anything just getting swept up in the wind.
Oof. Yeah.
Like, that's a big mess.
They decided to make a huge decision that would change everything. Let's just launch the balloons early.
Alter the course of history. You can't speed things up. You know what went sideways when they tried speeding something up?
What?
Titanic.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes rushing.
They should have just cruised into New York, but I forget who the rich guy was, and I apologize for derailing this and going off to a completely different historical piece.
Yeah.
But, yeah. The Titanic wasn't too much of a rush, and look what happened.
Look what happened there.
Back to Cleveland, sorry.
One thing you'll know about Jack, or you'll learn about Jack if you don't already know this, he will bring up the Titanic whenever possible.
I love the Titanic.
Like, every episode, there's going to be a Titanic reference.
Why do you think I was named Jack?
There's no way. I've got to talk to your mom. There's no way.
Back to Cleveland.
So back to Cleveland. So they made a huge decision that would alter the rest of the story. Let's try to beat the storm and let's just launch the balloons. I think they were set to do it like, I don't know, like 4 o'clock, something like that, 5 o'clock. 1:50 p.m., the countdown begins. They were like, let's just do it right now. Everyone chanted 3, 2, 1, and then it happened. An avalanche of colorful balloons came free from the net as planned and filled the sky. And it was beautiful. It kind of resembled a rainbow mountain. And the whole city erupted in cheers and happiness.
Okay, so all going to plan at the moment. They're a little bit early. They had to do it, before the storm got too crazy.
The party planners were like, thank God.
Yeah.
Now we can have a drink.
Because I thought my brain was thinking like they forced them to speed up and hurry, and maybe people weren't quite ready yet. So the actual
they were fully ready.
The release of the balloons was maybe going to be a problem.
Yeah, they were like, let's just get this out of here. So at this point, things went swimmingly. It was looking like a rainbow mountain, gorgeous. People were, looking up at the sky and were thrilled by what they saw. And for a moment, it was magic, like something out of a fairy tale Disneyland dream. But then it all changed. What goes up?
Must come down.
Must come down. And this pretty much sums up what happened next in Cleveland. Because of the cold front moving in over Lake Erie, because of that storm that I mentioned, the helium inside of the balloons didn't carry them up and away like the event organizers had hoped. So you know how like when you release a balloon?
Oh, I do.
Oh, well, okay, sensitive subject, because when we were upstate for my birthday, I'll keep this brief, I had these gorgeous 30 balloons because I just turned 30.
30, flirty, and thriving.
30, flirty, and thriving.
By the way.
I am, but Jack opens the door of the car because they were in the back of the car, and what happens?
The 3 behaved itself. It was the 0. The 0 just couldn't wait to get out, and it just had plenty of helium. I'll tell you that did not come back down.
And the wind just like
that went up,
took it,
and up and up, and it then got stuck in a big tree because we were kind of out in the woods. And I came rushing in to tell you, and so I'm familiar with
what happens
with how balloons misbehave.
But typically, the balloon will just disappear, and you'll see it getting smaller and smaller and smaller in the distance. And that's what the event organizers thought would eventually happen. Like the balloons were always going to be released into the sky, and event organizers were like, oh, they'll just disappear. Like, they'll just go somewhere. People at that point in time weren't too concerned with the environmental aspect of like what happens to them when they pop and then come back down to earth. Yeah. Like, you're not supposed to release balloons like that anymore, or like we're just smarter now. They didn't know that. But what didn't happen was that did not happen. Instead of doing that, the balloons being carried up and away, the 40-mile-per-hour winds blew them down, pushing them back towards the ground. So the direction of the wind, like instead of taking them away, pushed them down.
So it was like a balloon asteroid.
Soon, balloons were dropping everywhere. And remember, there were upwards of 1.5 million balloons total. So 1.5 million projectiles raining down from the sky, and they're rainbow in color. I mean, you're laughing, but it was probably terrifying. Especially when there's probably a lot of young kids that are at this event, and they're like, they're just scarred for life. Absolutely traumatized. Will never look at a balloon the same way. They wouldn't be able to have balloons at a birthday party ever. I can't imagine how terrifying that must have been. That must have been very bad for the clown industry in Cleveland. They covered the runways at Burke Lakefront Airport, forcing it to shut down. They blanketed the highways, causing drivers to collide. 10-car pileups, things like that. Luckily, no fatal car accidents as far as I could tell, but how scary. You're on the highway and like rainbow balloons are just like raining down from the sky. It was a mess. It was an absolute mess. You just wouldn't have been able to see anything. But here's the thing. Real life for Cleveland citizens didn't just get put on hold the day of Balloonfest. Like it was like one of those holidays where everyone was like, oh, Balloonfest is happening like next Tuesday or something like that. But, there was a lot of people with very important jobs that couldn't take the day off. Like some people did and like, brought their kids and were so excited about it. But some people with like super essential jobs, couldn't take time off. And that was law enforcement. And on the day of the balloon release, the Coast Guard was desperately searching for 2 fishermen who had gone missing just the night before. So, their job didn't get put on hold just because the rainbow balloons were going up in the sky. They were like in boats with lights trying to find these missing fishermen. Balloons got in the way. And as you'd imagine, it wasn't great for the recovery efforts. But the two men that went missing, let's talk about them. Their names were Raymond Broderick and Bernard Sulzer. And they went out in their 16-foot fishing boat on Lake Erie the evening of September 26, 1986. And they were reported missing. They didn't come home after their fishing trip.
So this is the day before the balloon gate?
Exactly, the night before.
Okay.
So the Coast Guard was in the process of a search and rescue mission, desperately trying to find these men. But inconveniently, like I said, this was the day of the balloon release. And if things had gone as planned, the balloons ascending into the sky, disappearing somewhere, wouldn't cause an immediate problem for the Coast Guards or inhibit their mission in any way. But as we know, things did not go as planned. It made locating Raymond and Bernard so much harder and really interfered with the search effort. Helicopter pilots said it was like flying through a field of asteroids. So they were trying to like get a look from up above. They were like in boats. They were trying to find these guys, and they couldn't do it because of the balloons. So the Coast Guard suspended its search for the fishermen on September 29th, and the bodies of Raymond and Bernard eventually washed ashore, which is really sad.
Yeah, that sucks.
Like, so upsetting. The fishermen's widows filed a suit against United Way, the charity, and the event organizers, saying that Balloonfest contributed to their husbands' deaths, but they later settled out of court. So luckily, I think they got some money.
Yeah.
Which is good. But I will say, though, like, there isn't any hard evidence to support the idea that Balloonfest directly caused the men's deaths. Because allegedly, like, they might have maybe passed the night before, but still kind of mysterious. Like, who knows if maybe they could have been rescued if the balloons hadn't obstructed, the rescue efforts. Like, if they could have maybe been saved, resuscitated in some way. Like,
we'll never know.
We'll never know.
We'll never know.
But word did travel, and people started to believe that Balloonfest was to blame for these deaths. So if you don't count the unfortunate death of the fishermen, luckily, Balloonfest had no known casualties directly associated with it. So that's good. It was mostly just embarrassing for the city.
Yeah.
Which kind of did the exact opposite of what it was supposed to do. Bringing Cleveland back on the map of, a cool place to be. It was kind of like, oh my God, Cleveland, you can't get it together. Still very, very unfortunate about the fishermen. Like, when I was reading that story and like reading about their widows, it was very sad to hear that. Like, that they had gone out and just didn't come home. Like,
just doing their job.
Very sad. But anyway, so back to Cleveland and the balloons. They did win a Guinness Book of World Records record.
Okay, so there was something. They got something out of this.
So they had that. They won the Guinness Book of World Record for the largest like simultaneous balloon release or whatever it was. They had that until 1994, when Disney organized the release of 1,592,744 balloons. So
wow.
like just over.
That's like so obvious that Disney were like, we're going to take our record back.
Yeah.
And how many do we need to do it by? Okay.
So, you guys, that's our doorbell. This better be good.
Another Titanic reference. It is My Heart Will Go On.
It is the Titanic. My Heart Will Go On. Jinx. And we will never be changing it. It came like that with our apartment. So our landlord did it to be funny, and we will not be changing it ever. Anyway, so back to the story. So Disney, we're back with Disney one-upping Cleveland, who already, was struggling as is. I mean, granted, this was in 1994 that they did their over 1.5 million release, and it was to promote their new film at the time, Aladdin.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I love Aladdin.
I love Aladdin, too. But then Guinness scrapped the record altogether, perhaps because everyone eventually realized that letting millions of latex balloons fly into the sky isn't great when they come back down and just animals eat them and
dangerous. It's potentially dangerous.
Well, not even, but it's just like also like bad for the environment. So true. They realized that, and then they scrapped the record altogether. So Cleveland has gained nothing from the Balloon Fest.
If anything, they just started a bad record.
Unfortunately.
And here we are, years later, talking about them.
This is not like meant to be a hate piece on Cleveland, but definitely like they maybe should have just done a music festival or something.
Like a cider fest or something.
Yeah. Everyone loves cider. That's such a great idea. Everyone loves cider. There's so many cider things. You could do cider donuts. Like cider, the alcohol.
I love cider
apple
donuts.
cider. Like no one.
Have you ever seen someone sad or unhappy while like eating a cider donut or drinking hot cider?
Never in my life.
And I'm like smiling. You're smiling thinking about it.
I absolutely am, because I'm very upset that we don't have anything in the house that is cider themed. But anyway, so back to the story. Like I said, this is a double decker. So we are about to enter story number 2.
Oh, we haven't even got on to the second.
This is the second story, and I think honestly you might be more intrigued by this one. This story, the second part of our tale today, comes later in history. So we're going from Balloonfest in the 80s to the year 2009. So we're kind of like fast forwarding a bit. But similar to Cleveland's Balloonfest on this particular day in 2009, everyone stopped what they were doing to look up at the sky. And they were also looking for balloons. Or in this case, just one. A shiny silver saucer-shaped balloon that was drifting towards I almost said the Verizon. That was drifting towards the horizon, not to be confused with Verizon, the cell phone carrier. This one had a 6-year-old boy inside of it.
Oh, it's like a hot air balloon situation?
Similar, but it's like, it looks like a flying saucer. Silver flying saucer shaped balloon. It's 2009 and there's a 6-year-old boy inside of it.
How did the kid get in the balloon?
I will be telling you all about that. So, and this story is kind of sad. It's kind of sad. Like, depending on how you look at it, it's sad. So this part of our story takes us to northern Colorado. Richard Heaney, the inventor of this homemade flying saucer balloon, called the authorities in a panic to report that his 6-year-old son, Falcon, had somehow, unbeknownst to him, climbed inside of the balloon before it was untethered, and now he was floating above the fields of Colorado.
That must have been like the most scary thing for the dad.
Every parent's worst nightmare.
And you've built it.
And you built it. He was the inventor of the balloon.
Great name, by the way. Falcon.
I knew you were going to say something about it. Like, isn't that an epic name? Falcon. Yeah. So Falcon Heaney is the 6-year-old son that was in the balloon. So the authorities snapped into action real quick. Soon, helicopters, news anchors, and millions of ordinary viewers were all tracking the same wild and scary developing situation. A large, homemade balloon that could pop at any moment, and inside of it was a small boy named Falcon. Like, this sounds like something out of a terrible movie. To everyone's credit, like, everyone worked very fast. Like, not moments after his dad was on the phone, like, people, like authorities were out.
Had people trying to support.
Trying to rescue the boy. Planes were rerouted around the balloon's flight path, so no planes would fly directly into the saucer balloon.
I can't even picture what this thing looks like. My head is stuck on a hot air balloon where you've got the balloon and then you've got like kind of, I want to say wood, like the wooden kind of baskety area where you hang around.
It's more flexible. It's more like...
Has he clambered inside
It's a saucer
of the
shaped.
material?
It's silver saucer shaped. I'll show you a photo, but I'll have it on the screen if you're watching on YouTube for the viewers.
Yeah.
You just have to imagine it in your head. I should have like a little slideshow for you. But so the planes were rerouted around the balloon's flight path, so no one flew into him. And for almost 2 hours, as authorities rushed to find the balloon and safely bring it down to the ground, that's all anyone could think about. It was being live streamed by news outlets, so everyone was watching in real time and hoping that he would come back down alive.
That's such a difference from the Cleveland where you were saying earlier, like, there was no social media, so nothing's being live streamed, whereas this, 2009.
2009.
It's like, oh, this is immediately...
Well, it was on the news.
Yeah.
It was on the news. Like, people were, stopping their workday. People in Colorado specifically were looking up at the sky, trying to see if they could, spot the flying saucer balloon. So the balloon finally safely landed 2 hours later, and when the authorities peered inside, Falcon, the 6-year-old boy, was nowhere to be found.
Oh.
Yeah. So quickly before I continue our story, I want to tell you guys a bit more about the Heaney family. So Richard and Mayumi Heaney lived in Fort Collins, Colorado, with their 3 sons named Bradford, Rio, and Falcon. So very interesting names. Richard, so the dad, was an inventor, an amateur scientist, and the kind of guy that was always tinkering around with things and had these larger-than-life, big ideas. He dabbled in storm chasing, researching UFOs, the end of the world, meteorology, and random experiments. So he was definitely like that kind of guy. And sometimes he would take his kids with him to chase tornadoes. Super safe. He's kind of like an amateur Bill Nye, kind of. Did you watch Bill Nye growing up?
Growing up, I didn't, but I've heard you reference, and Americans reference Bill Nye, the science guy, all the time.
Yeah.
So I've just got used to it, but I never watched it.
I love Bill Nye. I miss him. Anyway, so Richard is the inventor type, and then his wife, Mayumi, we don't know too much about her, but she kind of just like went along with his crazy dreams and obsessions. She was a supportive partner to Richard. Then Richard and his family got their big break. They appeared on a really popular show at the time called Wife Swap.
Oh.
You heard of Wife Swap?
I have, but that's not got much to do with science, right?
Nothing to do with science. So Wife Swap was a show. I don't know if they're still doing new episodes today in 2025, but it was really popular in the early 2000s. And essentially two families with completely different lifestyles, parenting styles, things like that, swap mothers for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So the families do a little switcheroo, and it was like a very dramatic show.
I think I've watched episodes.
Yeah.
Like, it was low-key a great daytime TV show to have on.
Yeah, it was one of those where...
Like, if you were sick home from school and you were sick, like, it might come on at 2:30 in the afternoon. And you've got the kid that's dealing with, like, a more strict mother, right? Things like of that nature. Yeah,
it would be like maybe a more lax mother, like a more like gentle parenting mother, and then a more like strict mother, or like a mom that's like vegetarian, and then a mom
that's... The producers of the show knew what they were doing. They'd find like polar opposites.
They really wanted to like shock the systems of either family.
Yeah.
Like depending on what that may be. And I feel like there's a lot of reasons why it's like maybe still not, I don't know. I haven't heard of it recently. I haven't seen ads for it or anything. I feel like it's no longer like being made because it's kind of like, okay, that's a lot. Like, why are the moms the problem? Why aren't we doing dad swap?
Yeah.
Like, why are the moms? Like, I have questions. But so the Heaney family, they first appeared on Wife Swap in January of 2008. And then they were so good on the show. And I say good in air quotes because I'll get to that. They appeared again in October of 2008. There were reports of Richard acting really horribly on the show, throwing things, being verbally aggressive, acting very misogynistic, etc. So, you know, not a great guy in that regard, but great TV, you know?
Yeah.
Like the producers were like, we will take more of that. That is interesting, although like extremely fucked up. They were on Wife Swap in 2008, and then the whole balloon fiasco happened just 1 year later in 2009. So I told you this little bit about the Heaney family because it really shows us who Richard Heaney is. He was a sciencey, kind of nerdy jerk based on his Wife Swap performance. So they discovered this empty balloon and they thought, could Falcon have fallen out of the balloon before we were able to ground it? If so, he could be anywhere in Colorado, like in the flight path, and badly injured or dead.
Most likely.
It's a long way to fall, especially for a 6-year-old. So authorities retraced the balloon's path, checking fields, rooftops, and ditches in the area. And then just before 4 p.m., a voice came over the police scanner to say, Falcon Heaney has been found. The mystery had been solved, or so they thought. But he wasn't found in a field or a rooftop or in a ditch. Falcon was found in a box in his family's attic, and he was alive. He was completely unharmed. He was in a box, like up in the attic in this family's house in a box.
Oh, my head was thinking that Richard, the dad, wanted more, you know, not that it would make him a celebrity, but he just wanted to be in the news. So he kind of fabricated this whole situation.
So that night, the Heaney family went on Larry King Live to share the crazy story and reassure the public that their family was safe and sound. So this went like nuclear. Like everyone had heard this story. So
he just upstairs in a box. So what? The dad isn't arrested immediately for lying?
No. They thought that he was... Here's the thing. They thought that he was just like playing up there.
I see.
They thought, so while the dad was working on the saucer, like creating the saucer, he thought they couldn't find Falcon anywhere around the house.
So they assumed he crawled in and was up there.
They're like, where's Falcon? They were like yelling his name, trying to find him, like presumably, and they couldn't find him anywhere.
Turns out he's just very good at hide and seek.
Turns out he's, just a classic 6-year-old hiding in a box.
Got it.
In the attic.
Okay.
So that night, the Heaney family went on Larry King Live to share the crazy story and reassure the public because, again, this had become like national, probably international news. A kid going missing in a flying saucer, that their family was safe and sound. And the family was asked a bunch of questions on air, and Richard talked about the experiment they were doing with the saucer-shaped balloon, etc., like talking about like why he'd even done it to begin with, things like that. And then the host asked Falcon, the 6-year-old, a question. Why didn't you come out when you heard your parents calling? And I discovered this, they had like the old episode. I had like found a clip of it, this particular clip, and it's so interesting. So he was asked, why didn't you come out when you heard your parents calling? And Falcon, who, he looked at the camera, looked at his parents, looked really nervous. He said, "You guys said that we did this for the show."
Wow.
That's verbatim what he said. You guys said that we did this for the show.
So he was kind of told to hide almost. All just made up.
Richard Heaney then tried to divert everyone's attention away from the comment that his son just said, saying, "I don't know what he's talking about." But it was too late. So the sheriff of Larimer County, Jim Alderton, launched an investigation on the matter. They wanted to figure out if this balloon incident was actually real or a hoax. Detectives interviewed the Heaney family. They tested the balloon's lift capacity to see if they could even feasibly have a 6-year-old inside of it. And then they came to a very simple conclusion. The saucer balloon couldn't have possibly carried the weight of a 6-year-old child. Like, it would not have made it off the ground with a 6-year-old inside.
And even an amateur scientist would have known this.
That's literally my next line. Richard Heaney definitely knew that.
Yeah.
Yeah, even an amateur would know, like,
For
the
sure.
lift capacity of, like, something like that,
No, it's in keeping with his behavior on Wife Swap and kind of just being a bit crazy and, wanting the limelight for whatever reason. And then, because the 6-year-old Falcon doesn't know any better. And when you're 6, you can't really lie, which is kind of the beauty in that.
That's true.
That's
very true.
Falcon doesn't realize he's actually like, what's the term? Throwing his parents
foiling
under the bus
plan
by just being like, "Well, you told me to do this. What do you mean?"
Yeah, like, it's when he was asked that on air, he almost feels like, "Oh, did I do something wrong? Am I in trouble?" Like, no, my parents told me to do that. So really crazy that they like subjected their 6-year-old son.
Yeah. And at that point, it's not even funny because it's a hoax. And imagine like the amount of money that town spent.
Here we go. So,
oh yeah, there's a lawsuit coming.
Yeah.
I sense a lawsuit.
You sense a lawsuit. So they came to a very simple conclusion. So Sheriff Alderman later told the reporters, "It's been determined that this is a hoax, a publicity stunt." They interviewed Mayumi, Richard's wife, who reportedly admitted that the whole thing had been staged. Richard, of course, denied. So Mayumi was like, "You caught us red-handed." Richard was like, "No." He claimed that the police twisted Mayumi's words. He's like, "That's not what she's saying at all. Like, it wasn't for a show." He really thought that Falcon was in danger. And some could say that Mayumi maybe said that knowing that, maybe like she did think that Falcon was in the balloon, but she just wanted to get this over with, like for the sake of her family. She wanted to just, get this moving to the point where like it would be dismissed and her kids could be spared from the limelight. Like there's, no one knows exactly what her true thoughts were. However, Richard, like till the day he died, he's still alive. Till the day he will die, he has always maintained that he genuinely thought that Falcon was inside the balloon. But prosecutors moved forward anyway with the suit because this was a crime after all. He deceived law enforcement if he truly did.
Yeah, you can't just be going around doing things like this.
You can't. Yeah. Like even if he truly did think that Falcon was in the balloon. But the thing is, like we said, he is a scientist. He would have known the basics of what his saucer could carry, like the weight allowance. He would have known that. So he would have known that it wouldn't have gotten off the ground to begin with, if there was a 6-year-old inside of it, he would have burst through and shattered through it like immediately. So I find it very hard to believe that he genuinely thought that Falcon was inside.
Nonsense. It's nonsense. And think about the reason it's like serious is think about the actual legitimate calls to police and law enforcement during the hours of searching for something that doesn't exist. You know, well, the saucer existed, but, you know, we know Falcon wasn't in the saucer. Let's just be real.
And it freaked out, like, all of America as well, and everyone watching. Like, everyone was genuinely so concerned about this little boy. So, and actually what you were saying just now about, like, kind of the boy who cried wolf, in a sense, like, the parents calling, like, being like, this happened, but it didn't actually happen, reminds me of when I accidentally dialed 911 when I was young. Did I tell you about this story?
I don't think you have. No.
So I was at my grandma's house. My parents both worked when I was young. My mom was an ER nurse, and my dad, I still don't really know. We worked at a bar at this point. He worked at a bar. Actually, no, he didn't anymore. Whatever, it doesn't matter. My parents were both working, and so I was with my grandma like most of the time during the day. And I don't know how old I was, but I had to have been like young enough to not know any better kind of vibe, but old enough to know what 911 meant. Like, I knew that 911 was like for the police and like emergencies. Like, my mom and my grandma had probably coached me into like, if anything is wrong, like if grandma, like my grandma was kind of in poor health, like if something bad happened, call 911. But I was still like the kind of kid that was curious. And I'm like, well, what would actually happen? Like, I was like, surely that's not real. Like, I don't know why I was like, no, there's no way that could actually happen. So let
me guess, you called, you panicked, you hung up, and then the police are like, we've got one of these. So they obviously then have to make sure no funny business is happening.
Like, when you answer and you kind of like pause for a second, then you hang up, like they might think that you're choking and you can't breathe, so you can't obviously like tell them that what's going on, and
they can't afford to take a risk of not following up to see if this is actually a serious call or not.
Right. So they came to my grandma's house. They come to the front door. My grandma looks at me and I burst into tears because I was like, oh my God, I fucked up.
You know what? This actually makes a lot of sense. You've probably never sat with a therapist and been told this before, but this is why, to this day, you have extreme anxiety when it comes to law enforcement.
I do.
I think this is where it started.
I do, and it's so crazy, guys, because like, of course I trust the authorities. Like, you know, you're, I guess, supposed to be able to, you know, like know that they're doing their best and they're trying to protect you and whatever. But yeah, in that moment, I was like, oh my God, I did something bad. Luckily, the police officer was very nice. And like, he's like, this happens all the time. And my grandma was like mortified. Of course, I had a big talking to, big trouble when I got home. But my parents love to bring this up. But you're so right with the law enforcement thing.
You called the cops on your grandparent.
Wow. I called the cops on Grandma Graham. Yeah, but it wasn't a prank. I was just curious. I was genuinely curious. And I bet that happens like thousands of times every minute, like in the world.
Yeah. I've never accidentally called the cops, but what I've done many times on my iPhone, and I never get a call back, is, have you ever done the emergency call by accident where you just hold, I don't even know.
Yeah, if you hold both buttons on either side and you like press
it's like the most extreme butt dial that you can do.
Kind of good to know that exists though.
Sure, but like I've done that before, and then obviously I shut it off immediately because you realize, why am I making all this noise? It's kind of embarrassing if you're not fighting for your life.
No, but let me say, dialing 911 and the police officer coming to your door is very embarrassing. Like, by accident, I should say. Of course, you know, if you need to do it, you got to do it. But like, when in doubt, call 911.
999 in England.
Good to know.
Just saying.
Oh, wow. I didn't actually think about that, how it would be different in other countries.
It was funny growing up in England, and you watch, like, you know, Nickelodeon, Disney Channel, the American shows, and it's 911. But you have to remember, in England, you're trained 999.
Okay, good to know. Public service announcement for everyone listening.
You're welcome.
Okay, so back to the hoax. Okay.
Well, you were the hoax. You were the hoax to your grandma.
I was the hoax to poor Grandma Graham. May she rest in peace. So it had been determined by the police that it was a hoax, even though Mayumi and Richard denied. Mayumi, on one hand, didn't, but Richard was like, no, she doesn't know what she's saying. Like, I truly did not know when I called the police that, that my son was in a box up in the attic. Like I really thought that he was in the saucer. But prosecutors moved forward because this was a crime. He deceived them, not to mention the search and rescue efforts, were estimated to have cost over $40,000.
Oh, yeah.
Like the National Guard had assisted with Black Hawk helicopters.
Well, I'm shocked it's as low as 40,000, but I was expecting it to be higher.
This is 2009, so it would be more now.
Yeah.
But still, like $40,000 for like that crazy effort.
Yeah.
And those resources could have gone elsewhere. Maybe there was another tragedy happening like in the same vicinity, and like this whole group of like law enforcement wasn't able to be there because they were dealing with this. But Richard pled guilty to attempting to influence a public servant, which was a felony, and Mayumi pled guilty to filing a false report, which I believe is just a misdemeanor. So Richard ended up getting 90 days in jail, and Mayumi served 20 weekends. So she could still be with the kids during the week. Like she was like with the kids, which like sounds so I feel bad for Mayumi in all this. Like really, I don't think she was like the mastermind behind this. And yet she served 20 weekends. And the family also paid about $36,000 in restitution. The infamous silver flying saucer balloon was confiscated and later auctioned off to raise money for charity, which is a positive, a silver lining, pun intended, to this story. And after their sentences, the Heaney family left Colorado and moved to Florida for a fresh start, as one does. Although Richard Heaney still maintains that the whole thing wasn't a hoax. He says he truly did believe that Falcon was inside of the balloon, and the reason why he, quote, confessed in the end was because they'd threatened to deport his wife, Mayumi.
Ugh.
So it's a bit of a mystery, perhaps, like depending on what you believe. I truly believe he wanted fame, and it's unfortunate that he dragged his kids into this, and his wife.
Yeah,
he wanted to be famous, and
I think he would. He was on Larry King. He would have gotten away with it if his kid hadn't have just been honest.
Which it's good that he was honest.
I wonder what Falcon's up to these days.
Interestingly, they actually did make this into a documentary, and I haven't had the chance to watch it.
Is it on Netflix?
It like literally just came out like last year.
I've seen.
Oh, you seen it? And he's all grown up, like the boy's all grown up, obviously.
Well, I've obviously not seen the documentary because I would have known the story, right? But I've seen. It might not be the right one. I thought it was a hot air balloon thing that I've seen on, I mean, there's a lot of Netflix, Hulu, whatever, one of the big ones. But no, we'll watch it now.
There's a lot of balloon tragedies that have happened, like, unfortunately. I mean, what goes up must come down. But anyway, so the Heaney children are now all grown up, and they say...
all blown up.
They're all grown up, and they say that their dad was just misunderstood, that Falcon really was inside of the balloon at first. Like, he might have climbed in and then climbed out. Or at least he could have been.
Yeah, I think that's just... You're going to protect
You're going to protect, and you're going to believe your dad. Like, to a certain extent, you're going to believe your dad. If he says something, like, you want it. Either you believe him or you just want it so badly to be true. So your dad doesn't look like a Looney Tune,
Yeah.
So in 2020, more than 10 years after the whole thing happened, Colorado Governor Jared Polis agreed to officially pardon the family. He said they had paid the price in the eyes of the public, were all ready to move past the spectacle and let the family live their lives. And this removed the lasting criminal record for both parents that lasted like until 2020. And that is the story of Falcon Heaney, the 6-year-old balloon boy, and the Balloonfest disaster of 1986. So a lot of
that
balloon tragedy
is a double-decker.
Double-decker balloon episode. Who would have thought?
I thought the double-decker was early. When you spoke about R.I.P. the two fishermen, I thought that was the second part of the story.
No, that was just something I obviously needed to share because it is kind of mysterious. Like, would their deaths have been prevented, if the Balloonfest disaster hadn't have happened, or would it have been completely unaffected? Like, that's something that we're not sure about.
And we'll have those in all of these episodes. Yeah. All of these really interesting moments in history. If it was for one other decision or something being earlier or later, it's a domino effect, right? It's the whole end result changes.
Anyway, that is a really a balloon-filled double-decker tale today. Hope you guys thought this was interesting. I don't want to say enjoyed because, like, my goodness, a lot of headaches involved in this episode.
I had no idea where you were going with it, and that's the beauty in this.
Took you along on a wild ride today.
You did.
And that is it for episode 2 of Mystery for Two podcast. If you guys liked this episode, please leave us a comment. If you're on YouTube, follow our page wherever you get your podcasts, rate us 5 stars, all the stuff, because we're just really excited and we're glad you're here, and we would love to see your support and spread the word. Do you have anything else to say, Jack?
I was just going to say, we have our ideas, but Katy has her ideas, but if you guys have any stories or any fascinating pieces of history that you want us to cover, I'm sure Katy's open to
absolutely
delving through them and picking some out.
Of course, definitely shoot us a DM over on Instagram. I believe our Instagram handle is Mystery for Two podcast. I think it's that. It'll be in the description of this episode. Shoot us a DM. I'm going to set up an email for us as well at some point so we can take listener stories and stuff. Yeah. But until then, that's how you can reach us. Call us, beep us if you want to reach us. Do you know what that's from? Call me, beat me if you want to reach me.
No.
Call me, beat me if you want to reach me. Kim Possible?
Couldn't tell you.
We have some stuff to watch while we eat dinner tonight. Required watching. Kim Possible. Anyway, that is it for episode 2. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you guys all next week.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.